All right, so I'm gonna try to finish strong for you guys. I really am. Obviously you can see the time. There's gonna be very minimal editing to this motherfucker. You feel me? So, long story short is this motherfucker's long, even though it's condensed. But I'm gonna try to finish strong to bring this point across. Because again, I know I mentioned in the first video about what I'm looking for, and if you watched all the way through, you kind of saw it alluded to one man, multiple woman interaction, okay? So let's just get into that, okay? Because again, this isn't about me. This is about where humans are at and what the most favorable thing that they can do to be the most harmonious and have the most joy and happiness out of life and with each other and their interactions. So, and again, honoring instincts and nature and honoring their higher human parts and fairness, their consciousness, their higher consciousness, and I always just say their higher self and their lower self, their lower human, animal, and instincts, and then their higher human consciousness and spirit, right? Like that's really what's being intertwined, what we have going on, the best way to look at it in a practical way in 2023 of what the human is, okay? So I think the best way to do this is we'll kind of look at why the multiple, female and single male situation works. We'll probably pick apart a little bit of monogamy along that way, and to further drive the point. And also we'll even maybe try to touch on why this strategy it works, but at this point I don't see it working with any other male, and I don't advise trying it. Because the same level of satisfaction and happiness isn't going to come out anyhow. Because what it boils down to is just like monogamy, right? Monogamy can be done wrong, clearly, right? Any of the other opposite sex sexual interactions that I mentioned earlier, there's a healthy way to do it, and then there's an unhealthy way to where it's just not going to feel right, right? So that's one of the things. I mean, I'll literally go to, I know about I got one good nigga who, like I said, I mean, I can tell everything to. And I mean, he'll be up to the page on what I'm even talking about right now. But I couldn't even trust this person with, employing the philosophy in a healthy manner accurately. So I just can't vouch for any other male, and that's saying something strong for somebody who I know understands the philosophy. It's like, that's why I imagine tons of people heard what I said, but, they really didn't hear what the fuck I said. I just know, and good luck employing this massive amount of information. And like I said, I take for granted how much detail is really behind all of this to even make this work. So, like I said, we're going to finish strong. And talk about this, multiple, so I think we should run through kind of like some of the stuff on the first video, what I'm looking for. I'm just gonna try to off top of the dome remember, and I think that'll help us paint, this multiple situation, why it works best, okay? So if we look at, say, I said good pussy, right? So, I think, we was gonna break some shit down and so we touched on attractiveness. So when I say I was looking for something attractive, now you see why, right? Like I'm staying true, like people try to run the, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. It is. And, maybe you can see past physical beauty, maybe you can, but at the end of the day, I don't think one should sell themselves short, especially in the life cycle of wherever they're at in their life cycle of their human life. And I definitely could say right now, I can still appreciate, physical beauty for sure. And long story short, as being male, and like I said, being attracted, to physical beauty in a woman, again, you can see why, that is a requirement for, my opposite sex sexual interaction, what I'm looking for, right? So, you look at it, like I said, I don't really want to get too involved. The whole nature of, I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's appropriate in this condensed version. There's not really a need for the explanation to kind of explain why women are good in bed or not good in bed, sexually involved or not. There's a lot of traumas that women go through that make them unsexually involved. There's a lot of women that are just disconnected with their inner parts, and just really haven't, I always say a lot of things in life are like working out, right? Like there's a muscle you've got to build up and work. I could go into that on multiple depths. Like I said, just off the top of my head, thinking about what I mentioned, what I was looking for, but again, that's not really applying into, why a multiple situation works. Although it is in the sense of how many scarred ass women are out here because of a failed monogamous relationship, and they've kind of even shut down sexually, or they put themselves in other situations sexually because they just really haven't figured out, the best way to interact, right, or whatever, with opposite sex sexual interaction. So, like I said, we don't need to really harp on, what good pussy, what good tight pussy, or, we're definitely not going to get into sizes and shapes and, all of this shit. But, like I said, if you watch what I'm looking for, you definitely, attractive, good pussy, you feel me? And, there's more to, be spoke on that, but again, it's not really conducive to really relay the philosophy over. So I know there was other parts like evolved woman, right? This is where, I was talking about short-term interactions that I would be, acceptable, long-term interactions that would be acceptable. As you can see, if, something's just sex, a person just wants to share themselves because they appreciate, another person, whether it's just a one night or, don't really want to do a long-term, interacting a lot, getting on the same page, but, still good with sex. Obviously you can see, where that would fit in, right? Me being male, like I would always mention, and potentially just where a woman is evolved that in her life. Maybe this is just too much, not ready for it, right? But she sees, wants the dick still, right? Whatever. Cool. Now, and we'll allude to that too for, a healthy relationship with multiple women and one man. Because again, shit can be done. It just has to be done right. Okay, and it's just, you ain't hearing shit about it being done right out here. So, if we, look at an evolved woman, okay, and then we're looking at long term, like I mentioned. Well, and we, kind of talked even about sexual besties, right? Like two chicks, right? Well, there's a lot, packed in here. So, first I would mention, more than likely for a woman to even comprehend or want to be, on the philosophy on this level, just trust me, she's a more evolved woman, okay? Now, am I pretty much in a class of my own on this planet? Absolutely, okay? So, I always say, it's probably not healthy for one to try to compare themselves to me, male or female. I'm just fucking crazy, bizarre, clearly, if you really pay attention. It's like, this is all basic shit we can all peep out, but who really peeped it out and put it together in this type of, like, figured out, So, a little different. So, long story short, I'm a little different, and that's one of the biggest things so again, for an evolved woman, really to even follow this philosophy, okay? or a woman to even follow this philosophy, she's more likely just gonna be on the evolved path. Okay, that's just what it is. And every other woman's just gonna fall in another category or whatever. It doesn't devalue the merit of this philosophy and the potential that it has, though, just because of the effort that others put in or choose to say they're capable of doing. Now, one of the biggest differences that we want to start off with me, okay, and again, we're even going to transfer it to of how female can promote qualities in a man based upon the pussy that she has, the power of the pussy she has. So, in the most humblest way, I'm gonna say my connection to the creator, the source. Okay, God. Levels of the frequency of the highest level of maybe being in tune to levels in between there. But it's all in that same frequency of creator love, of positive creation, of the mechanics, the laws of the universe that were given to work together with it to build something positive creation, not negative destruction, not twist things, not try to play God. So my point ultimately here is, again, in the most humblest way, the thing that a chick, like literally, should not even open her legs to is a man that does not have a strong connection to source. And, there's some, like I said, this is so hard, and why I can't vouch for anybody like that. And even, I couldn't even trust a woman to try to vouch for a man like that, because, it's a lot of people say they believe in God, or a lot of people go to church or whatever, or I'm a man of the God, or, they're so far from the connection source of the true source. It's one thing to even have levels of connection to source, but it's another to have deep levels, right? Deep levels of connection to source lead you to this type of understanding that, in my opinion, like I said, I don't know, I'm not gonna get, real crazy with it, but you just don't see people coming to these type of conclusions, okay? I appreciate this, I appreciate being given this, right? I was only given this through my logic that men have strength in to be able to pull that out as a human, to be able to show the level of power that women actually have and articulate it in plain English to women that have a strong enough logical sense, and then synthesize it in a whole woman way, in an emotional frequency, and then pass it on to women. But the biggest thing, besides so many other little details that would keep a woman attracted through the interaction, that's first and foremost, is the connection to source. She shouldn't be literally opening her legs up to anything else. So ultimately, if men knew that, okay, I have to have a deep connection to source, true connection to the truth of life, things like that. Like, that's what men would do because they want pussy. Like, literally, it's ingrained biologically for us to do that. Like, women can promote all these other qualities and we'll do it, right? For the pussy. Like, it's a proven fact, that they can, promote a quality just, again, because they have something between their legs. And again, this isn't to be shallow about anything. This is just to really be insensitive about anything. I'm glossing over the beauty of so much of this. I'm glossing over the emotion. So many women are probably seeing so many of the processes and saying, just with this logic, cutting straight to shit, it's taken out of the beauty. And I get it, right? But again, this is just for the purpose of delivering the information. The information is logical in that sense, right? So, I'm probably taking a lot of being insensitive and taking a lot of the sensitivity of the beauty of a lot of the things that we've been talking away. But it's ultimately just to cut, for time purposes, to cut to the chase of the information of the structure. So, again, if we're looking at, say, evolved women, that's really who's gonna really rock out with the philosophy more or less, right? And probably you'll see the truth in it, to be able to be explored with it. So where do I want to go with this? So if I'm just talking directly about, there's only other one thing that I want to mention of what I was previously talking before I was kind of comparing this to that first what I'm looking for video, and that's the level of intimacy. Okay, so a multiple female and a single male scenario, you could have two, right? That becomes multiple women at that point. You can have three, you can have 4, 5, 6, whatever. I've thought about this. I actually have put quite a bit of thought into this. And so we're looking at, like, for some reason there was a point where I was seeing like 5 is what I would be satisfied with. But I've switched it all the way up because I've seen it a little bit clear how the man can get his needs met and the woman can get her needs met on the highest levels. And it doesn't happen with 1 man and 5 women, okay? So what are we sacrificing if we were to go that route? Well, we're sacrificing, again, if we remember earlier when we were given these scenarios of all the acceptable, strategies of opposite sex sexual interaction in a general sense, without getting deep into those relationships, we said intimacy was the big thing, right? So intimacy is the big thing to take here. The more people you have, the less intimacy it is, okay? Now, and again, it's the side note that intimacy is one of those things in the sexual, mating process of humans that, like I said, it's that lovey-dovey little thing, like, that men and women do. Like, you see them, like, cut, like, that's intimacy, right? It helps bond monogamy, and that shit's on an instinctual level to act that way. And then these feelings come about after you act that way. But it's, like I said, it's for a good cause if you're moving in that monogamy route. But again, why I'm trying to really just kill the monogamy route is where we're at currently in 2023. We have some growing to do before we can choose which structure we want to be in, even monogamy at this point, okay? That's all, that's the best way I can say it. And the monogamy, and again, the multiple women and 1 man scenario is ultimately what would actually benefit us the best, men and women at this point, which that's what I'm, like I said, pretty much diving into. So again, when we were mentioning the level of intimacy, it's pretty hard to, if you, like, me personally, okay, I've been in some experiences, we'll just say, where there was a couple of women, okay, one real good one, like living together and shit, I've just had my experience with playing with the numbers or how it would work, because, sometimes when you're pushing the envelope like I'm doing right now, yes, you're gonna have to have experiences to do trial and error to see what works, what doesn't work, but you can also use foresight, and vision to see what is probably gonna work and probably not gonna work with high probability. So where I'm going with this is, I can already see that, I don't even know if I would be satisfied with the level of intimacy with 5 women. I was just, I like to say this because, again, wouldn't all guys like that? Would you rather have 2 girls or 5? Of course, I'd rather have 5, right? It's just, but then we start to be practical with what our needs are based upon the philosophy. So where I'm kind of trying to pin this down to is, again, on a daily, how close, because again, we say intimacy is how deep you can connect with the person. So how deep can you connect with 5 women when you've got work or you've got other priorities and you see them, you know, some people's schedule you're going to see more than others, so maybe there's favoritism of the other, you know, forget all that. The point is with 5, how deep can you really get with all of them? And for all of them to feel, you know, satisfied and fulfilled. You know, so if we go to like detachment off of intimacy and we just say, not get real deep, but you can be satisfied with, you can still, like, if you had just an example with 5 women and one man, you can still have a thriving interaction, okay? There's gonna be pros and cons to having more, right? And there's gonna be more pros to having more people than cons at all times, okay? But again, the thing that we're gonna be sacrificing is intimacy. And again, intimacy is, again, something one's free will is gonna have to make a decision of how important it is or how important it's not. And again, with how I've been talking about how we're all biologically wired, and especially women, right? And even from our more recent evolution, right? The woman is seeking intimacy, right? She desires intimacy because that's what comes from a monogamous relationship with one man and one woman, which ultimately would be good for, children, and they would live longer and have higher chances of survival and, all of that. So that part's in her. We don't want to come up with strategies of how to not fulfill that, right? But we want to come up with realistic solutions that work, okay? So you'll have, again, let's lower that number. Just again, I don't want to circle around back, to the intimacy thing, but again, we're ultimately going to slim it down to just 2, okay? And you're going to hear me, talk, why that, is good. So again, I want to show that the lower number of people in the opposite sexual interaction, the more intimacy it's going to be, right? So we lower the number down to 2 girls, 1 guy. And again, there's nothing wrong with 3 girls and 1 guy, 4 guys and, or 4 girls and 1 guy. But I do like to give the picture of what happens, and again, this is in a general sense, maybe think of a porno or something. What happens when there's 3 girls and 1 guy? Most of the time. The guy be fucking one of the girls. What's happening with the other 2? They're messing with each other. What's not happening? There's 2 groups there, right? What's happening when there's 2 girls and 1 guy? They're always all in that group, right? They're intimate, okay? So we're gonna see this dynamic of where I came to this number at, okay? But ultimately, again, I don't wanna get too deep, but because I'm just trying to just give enough information to, relay how this works. So again, we want to honor the instincts, but we want to honor, the lower instincts and the higher human, consciousness. So we want to wrap that the best way we can with how we are and are evolved in our 2023, and not try to get too far ahead of ourselves or, too far behind ourselves. So, so all of this helps put all that into perspective. So, like I said, what we'd be looking at, and before we really go, too deep into the 2 girls and 1 guy, and to, why this is a really good solution for what we're going through nowadays in our society with opposite sex sexual interaction, probably the only other thing I would mention is from what I was looking for, that was probably throwing, maybe people off, is sex quickly, okay? So I'm just gonna touch this, and then we'll just really literally finish off with the why the multiple women in one man works, if it's done right and healthy. So this is done right and healthy from the beginning, okay? Because again, you always hear me talk about lower instincts animal, but higher consciousness human. And this is one of the things that we lack, men and women, to really rise to the occasion is in our higher consciousness, right? For the part that we really identify as a human that makes choices and likes fairness and things like that, not the just instinctual reaction part that comes from the lower animal. That's from our biological parts that we got through evolution. So if we're looking at how when I mentioned time equals trust, okay, and I told you that was one of the most frustrating things that I kind of experienced with the woman's kind of getting in from the beginning, right? Is that time equals trust. It's the lower animal, right? Because again, it's the foolproof way of making sure a man's gonna stay for the relationship. So if anybody's been listening to me and you're still here and you're keeping up with what I'm saying, you will understand the non-relevance of the lower animal part compared to your higher human consciousness part. Sure, it's all integrated and it all needs to be honored and blended and balanced together, but there is something to speak on the higher, like God being even higher, parts, their magnitude of comparison to the lower parts. So where I'm going with this is we have to look at a woman engaging her higher parts, right? So we'll call that judgment, especially when, again, we're gonna bring back this word judgment, when she's dealing with the opposite sex sexual interaction. It's not this thing of, okay, can he take it, all my bullshit and then he's still here, right? Like, why do women, go through these little tests and shit, and fuck with men? And most women are not conscious of this shit. How many times, will he, I ignore him and then still keep chasing? Okay, that shows me he's a sign that he's gonna stick around for the long haul. If we just look at, kind of even from the structure I've given, you'll start to see so much of this behavior that's frustrating for men is just designed to foolproof, not let a man talk his way into saying, I'm here for the long haul. These are tests that will actually show if a man's there for the long haul or not. And again, this comes from, that past part that you can't fake it with a woman. Time equals trust, period. So it really is important, to mention this part, because now, again, women can actually engage their higher consciousness and have good judgment. And they don't need to rely on time equals trust. That's such an inefficient process, right? It's barbaric. That's why it was in the past of our evolution, right? We need to grow higher, right? And one of the things as humans, at the end of the day, and like I said, it'll be in future videos, of the importance of our judgment, especially in the day and age that we're going into in this super faking culture, right? And it's just can you even believe what you see type shit days. So judgment is just going to become increasingly important. You cannot just go off of somebody who you believe, or somebody who you respect their belief and just adopt their beliefs, because it is going to it's going to lead people down too many paths. Already has led people down too many paths that they don't want to go down. Just listening to somebody else in the way they believe and not thinking for themselves and figuring things out for themselves. If there's anything, that's definitely I want a person that figured out what I'm trying to say, not believe what I'm saying because I'm saying it. You can figure this shit out. That's how confident I am in what the fuck I'm saying. Is I'm not asking you to believe me. I'm not asking you to trust me or none of that shit. I've already told you. You can just literally go experience this or synthesize enough of it to just be like, okay, it is what it is. So, and that's my personal belief, but to gloss over that, let's get straight to, again, the time equals trust and not wasting a man's time in our modern time in 2023. Some of the frustrating behaviors. So, we're all human, and one of the things you'll find human is gonna be higher in is in logic. okay? Now, human is higher in emotional realm than say a lot of other animals, also like emotional awareness. But again, we give that realm of the higher emotion to the woman and the higher kind of logic to the man, right? For the human. But the emotion's still gonna be really closely more associated with the instincts. The mind's gonna be more associated with detached and being able to kind of, theorize, like, men just go in their head and think, right? Women are just like, why they're always wanting to interact and connect and, touchy-feely. And, there's this whole feeling and instinctual realm. So anyway, the woman is going to be more susceptible to the feelings and the instincts, right? That's ultimately going to come off of. So again, if the instincts come from this primal place of time equals trust, right? That's just what she's gonna be feeling, and then that's the way she's gonna be treating guys, right? Versus, again, why it's so, like, guys don't understand it because we're coming from more of a human logic, and we just understand, like, you don't see that a guy could just lie to you, like, that guy just got good game, like, us guys look at other guys that get women, and women think, most guys don't get this shit, but some look at women and we just think like, wow, you didn't see that type of guy coming? Like, we know guys sometimes better than women know the guys that they're choosing to let into their vagina. Like, what the fuck? We don't even have as much of a risk with that guy than she does. And she doesn't have as good a judge of character for guys as some guys. So my point here though, is it's still gonna come back to judgment. So if a motherfucker listen to me and I say, hey, long term or short term, let's not fuck around with this pleasurable activity, right? We call sex. That's what humans do, right? Let's not even play this game, you know what I mean? Like, if we're cool with experiencing each other, let's just kind of go ahead and get that out the way without the difficulties of the instincts of the woman playing this time equals trust game, which we're so beyond that because she can engage her higher logic as a human, and so can he, and just realize, okay, we have judgment that we want to fuck around opposite sex sexual interaction. This isn't a predictable, like, this. That's what I'm saying. That takes out, like, women before you kind of heard all of this would just be like, why it can't be predictable like that. Like, yeah, it can. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, this guy looks this way, or this guy has, meets all these criteria, checks all these boxes. And, this is somebody who I want to explore sexually more, right? Because they're not waiting for, the picture perfect romantic time at the grocery store where they bump into each other. Oh, what's your name? Jill, Bob? Oh, let's take your number, go out. You want to go out for dinner? And, oh, I met my hubby at Kroger. It's like, that's cool fairy tale fantasies and shit like that, right? Which, again, we've really glossed over much of that shit of, again, this monogamous part that I keep saying that is even alluding to just the natural nature of the of the sexual communication process of humans in the monogamy. Like, all these things that women are desiring, that's just where they kind of come from. Now, like I said, I don't want to sell a woman short of her instincts that would make her happy. But we have to look at the bigger picture and see how we can operate, again, to make this harmonious world. So, again, before we get to the, real talking about the situation, we just got to say that my getting in phase, there's got to be way better judgment. Like, a person doesn't have to listen to a 5-hour video to realize that this is the type of person that I would be open to sexually exploring. And, let's see, whether, wherever their head's at, long term, short term, wherever they can fit in, whatever. The point is I mean, I always give an example, shit, you know, and again, this is, you know, might be exaggerating a little bit, but, you know, you've heard where they say, you've heard I can size a person up in 60 seconds. Okay, well, what about 5 minutes? How much can you size them up? Okay, what about a couple of hours? How much can you size them up? You know, like, how long does it really take for you to know who you're dealing with? Seriously. That's judgment, right? There's a little bit of time equals trust. Like, your best friend is not your best friend because from the first 5 minutes you realize that this person was, now you just got this connection with this person within the first 5 minutes that equals to the connection that you would have over 5 years or 15 years with the person. No, like, you might have realized within the first 5 years that, hey, this person's gonna be in your life for life. However, the level of actually taking the time to interact with each other over that period of time, you know, that shows that you can, you know, stick around with each other, right? So that's that kind of like time equals trust. You get an added benefit. You're always gonna get an added benefit from, but again, I always just like to point out that it's not just with opposite sex sexual interaction, monogamy relationship, right? This is just with anybody. You know, we're gonna feel, the more time we spend, the more comfortable we just are gonna be, right? The more we open up over time and deep connect, right? The more intimacy, however you wanna look at it, over time, you know, just there's an extra benefit. But again, that benefit can't be, we have to be able to maneuver fairly quick, right? We have to use our intuition, and we also have to use our logic and judgment from our experience. And we've got, this is, like I said, one of the places people are ill with, men and women. But ultimately, our judgment has to step up. And again, I would never, ever, I should never even have to tell a woman, why are you wasting my time? Like, you should already know, like I said, when I'm talking about fucking on the first night or whatever, and it's just naturally flowing that way, that's actually the sexual, like, I've actually come to the conclusion, because I've had sex probably, you know, more times, you know, the first, like, night, right, like, flowing, and I guarantee most women have that experience this process. It's just naturally flowing. You got to actually interrupt that process for it not to happen, like, naturally, quick. It's, again, when we allude to the sexual mating process, again, these are just, like, when I say sex quickly, that's actually just a part of the mating process. Now, that's after, you know, she's, like, picked the guy, if you will, but there's not a lot of pauses and breaks into that shit, okay? Like I said, when we talked about, there's several levels of strategy that humans employ at the same time. You know, a woman, you know, can employ, in the mating process, she can employ time equals trust, but she can also employ, sex quickly. You know, these are things that shouldn't go together, but they do. I mean, I'm like living proof of that shit. But to the point of where we're going with it, not to veer off, like I said, I want to finish strong here, is, you know, these are some of the reasons why, you know, we gotta have sex quickly. Is because, like, a man isn't gonna stay around, like, in 2023, again, when we go back to our pre-animal, you know, like the dumb guy, the barbaric, you know, before we got here, right, type of evolution, where the mechanism of monogamy and women were actually strategizing to evolve into that, right? Like, they couldn't fake it. Like, they didn't have language to try to play a chick, right? Like, yeah, I'm gonna stay, you know? Like, women should be able to spot that guy. I'm sorry, you know? The reason why they can't spot that guy is because the games that they play are so intense that actually just are time equal trust testing games or whatever, to make sure the male parental investment is going to stick around. That's ultimately what all that shit is those games that she plays are so vicious that in 2023, we're not the dumb animal like we used to be. We're smarter. So we're time management. We'll tell her what she wants to get what we want. All of these results that are super unfavorable that make the judgment even harder for women to judge, right? Because guys just will get that much better or play that, But I promise you, there's only so much you can play, before women can just spot this shit, right? But the reason why I'm speaking about this is, again, in 2023, a woman has to have that judgment to not put the ringer through the man, and to kind of give a little bit more than time equals trust, like speed up that process, if you will, because ultimately she's dealing with a man who, this isn't like the peacock. We're not running, like, seriously, and women are still treating men like this. We're not like the peacock running up to the woman, let's just say it's center stage and the guys are running up trying to show off the, pick me, right? Like, yes, that's what's going on. Men are yelling out, pick me. But we're more civilized, right? Like, we're not animals like that. Why would a woman, you don't, like, this is where abuse of power will start to come in here. Like, why would you toy with me? Why would you waste time? Why would you, there's just so many, why would you? And at the end, it just comes down to abusing power and, not being the best human that she could be, right? And obviously being a higher self parts, they're gonna have to, that's where judgment comes in, right? So we all can help be harmonious. So again, it's not harmonious for me to try to beg. Like, what the fuck I need to beg for? Why would I even do that? Like, and here's the thing, is fuck me. I want to get this really point across super duper extreme. I want you to think about the most famous basketball player, LeBron James, whoever. I don't give a fuck. Like, the guy who has the most pick of the litter or the easiest of how he would get it, he's still, if there's a very rare percentage of women that aren't aware or don't utilize their power and actually get into relationships where they're 100% submissive to a man. Like, a man basically runs everything, her and all of that. Like I said, that's almost personality and then past lives. So why a woman would even tolerate that shit? Because again, when a woman, especially in America, if you listen to this in other countries, it might be, different stories of how, the society is controlled, male dominated or whatever. But here in America right now, women got too much power, right? So there's no woman that, has to tolerate, being in a submissive, 100% like that. I mean, we won't even go into why they may be attracted to those type of relationships versus, what other relationships they're always going to be looking for a relationship, but what other options of, relationships they have they could get into. Because like I said, this shit is deep, okay? Like I said, we're covering as much as we can to just get the point across of the philosophy. So again, I just wanted to circle back around to where I'm not look, woman, don't be difficult with me. What do you, it's not coming from that. It's coming I need to be treated like a normal fucking human being. Like, I'm not fucking with every woman because I got certain judgment, right? It's oh, I spot this, I see this person from these, I see that this is the type of person that, okay, I don't even want to fuck with. But again, at the same time, I'm a man, so it really comes down to a lot of fuckability just for me. But for a woman, it's a little bit deeper, right? She has a lot more than just fuckability, right? Because again, it's gonna come back to who she can, it hits her buttons that she could see, having a kid with, pretty much, is on an instinctual level, whether she's conscious of it or not. So there's way more okay, he's got nice shoes, or okay, this guy meets my height requirements, this guy, whatever, all of these different little shits, well, less than what men have. So if, that shit's, met, if you will. Where I was going again was with being difficult, right? So it's just, that's judgment, right? So a woman can just show up, again, with what I was just saying, meets all my things. Like, she can show up, okay, meets, be the judge of that. And then it's just like, you move a little bit quicker because you're a human. We're in just like modern day life. Like, we're not old animals in those instincts. Like, there's so many situations that we have to overcome our instinct because we live in a modern day human society that's trying to grow and evolve even higher levels, right? Like, these are lower levels that are holding us back from growing to higher levels. Just not even acknowledging what I'm talking about is what's holding us back. So I'm done with that. Like I said, fucking on the first night, or, and again, you can see how this is give or take and everything's situational, but you can get where I'm coming from. It's just, hopefully you can get where I'm coming from, is if you can see is, there's just no need for the games. Like, we already see why you're acting that way. So as a human, like as an animal, you wouldn't understand why you're acting that way. You just act that way instinctually. But when you're human, you become aware, you can have control over these processes. And you say, oh, well, why would a man want to fuck with me if I'm really irritated, like pissing him off and putting him through tests and, making him inconvenient and making him chase and making him do all this crazy shit just to prove that, on an instinctual level, that he's gonna stay with me. It's so beyond that. We should be able to talk and communicate with each other, and we'll know if one, again, when we're more of an open, honest society, now it's like, okay, this is where I'm at in life. I'm looking for a monogamy, again, nobody should be looking for that right now, but, I'm looking for a 5-woman situation because, I'm just not looking to get that intimate. I can do without it. I like the idea of 6 incomes coming into a house, what we can create. Based upon that, we can sacrifice a little bit of intimacy and have it more, whatever justification. We just have to be honest with the shits. Now, again, I'm done, beating around, like I said, what I'm looking for video, but I do want to, just kind of harp on that point to even kind of mix into, kind of a little bit of the backstory that we've been getting today. To the reason why it's just unnecessary. Again, we know why the instincts or the holdup of giving up the pussy is. About the one only thing, I really want to say, is the way it's built, is, guys like, okay, like, a guy's just ready to fuck, right? Or, like, guys wants to fuck. And it's like, girls almost like, it's really weird. Because again, we talk about these opposites, how we can make these opposites, but sometimes there's a twist. So, whereas the guys just, when he holler at chicks, he basically just say, I'm trying to fuck, right? Well, what she's trying to do is not fuck. I've really come to this conclusion. It's so fucking crazy. What it is guys are trying to fuck, women are trying to not fuck, except for the guy who she's trying to fuck, okay? So, I know that sounds a little funky, but all guys, like I said, are trying to fuck. And like I said, a woman basically, through the time equals trust process really is trying to not fuck, right? Until she decides who she wants to fuck, and then she fucks. And then even then there can be a little, difficulty going on in and out and about that process. But what I'm trying to, zone in on is, like I said, the level of how that shit's just unnecessary, especially with me, right? So, again, don't want to harp onto it. I'm really just, I don't feel like I really nailed that, but we're just gonna move on because I need to finish this shit up, okay? Let's be realistic. Why am I coming to more of the conclusion of what would be good for interaction is two women and one man scenario, okay? Now let's just, like I said, let's bring this home and we're done. So if we look at, like, if we're looking at it, let's look at pros and cons, okay? I mean, like I said, we'll even see it with context of everything we've been talking about. Should be pretty cool. You say, one man, two women. Well, what the fuck? If you're a woman, where's the monogamy? I need one man, one woman, right? Well, again, we say ultimately humans, men and women, are not evolved enough to have that relationship yet, right? Men nor women. We went to enough details of why we're not evolved enough, okay? Even though the woman has the burden. And that's really where the woman has the short end of the stick in this situation. Like, think about it. Like, men and women know that relationships, monogamous relationships, traditional relationships, the dating scene out here is really that bullshit, okay? And trying to figure out how to make it work and be happy and all that shit, right? Everybody knows it's that bullshit. Now, men who just seek sex aren't too excited to just go hop into that bullshit, because what they just desire in anyway primarily was sex. However, women have the burden of knowing that these relationships and all this shit's that bullshit, but for some reason I still desire it. I still desire a monogamous relationship. I don't know what's it. Like, so that's a burden. But again, she can take power over that once she acknowledges what that is in the first place, why she's even desiring that. Again, if we're just, kind of just cutting to the chase, finishing strong, we're saying, again, we're just not at the evolutionary level. Again, we can always further double back around in later videos of why humans aren't ready for monogamy, okay? In a healthy way, right? We can do something else in a healthier way. And again, you'll see why these things, like what I'm saying, why the three-way interaction is best, because of the things that we haven't grown from. So like the one, which we'll circle around to with women. Are you ready to give up the sexual attention that you get from men to be in a relationship? Shit. You would have naturally stopped it. You wouldn't have had me tell you. You wouldn't need me to tell you. If you had that strong connection with Source, you wouldn't have needed to say that toxic energy, taints your monogamous relationship. When other guys are out lusting after you or on scrolling in your socials or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, you're cheating in the female way. It's just as bad, literally, seriously, in energy value. It's just as bad when a man gets approved of by another woman finally and gets sex, right? That sledgehammer that gets him all that energy, all those little doses she's getting out through the day. Like I said, that shit's cheating, man. I mean, it just is what it is. And so the question is, again, men, and why do men cheat, right? Because they're not ready to give up new pussy. Even if they get in a relationship, they still not ready to give up new pussy. Why is women out here getting all this sexual attention from men when they're in relationships? Because they're not ready to give up that sexual attention from all men, right? That's what they desire and crave, just like men desire sex. They desire to be sexually craved by men. So, with that being said, what's one thing that a chick gets to keep in the three-way interaction, the two chicks, one guy? She gets to keep getting her sexual energy, right? She's not ready to give that shit up. I'm not gonna make her give that shit up. I'm not gonna have her out here in a burqa. You know what I'm saying? One, it's just kind of weird in our society in America like that. But, I don't want motherfuckers thinking motherfuckers is in cults and shit, you feel me? Like, why is this girl head to toe? Like, nah. Not just because I said that shit. And like I said, you can see how I wouldn't even do it, because I don't even believe in monogamy being nothing more than a situation of opposite sexual interaction that you can pick And again, it just doesn't even make sense where we're evolved at. And I'm understanding where I'm evolved at. So I'm not going to be like, get ahead of myself. Like, oh yeah, I can't wait to get to monogamy. Like, I'm not even really thinking about it because it's not a practical option for humans right now. So she gets to keep that. All right. With keeping it slimmed down, you still get a level of monogamy. You're one person away from monogamy actually, right, with a man. And here's the thing, you actually get to really cherish your instincts of monogamy if you're a female, because it still is one man. You're just having to, basically share, if you will, with another woman. Now, again, when we talk about we kind of mentioned actually in the what I'm looking for video about the natural bisexuality of a woman, okay, and it being on a meter and a man not having that, right? So, in a one man, two woman scenario, again, not worried about, another man having to deal with his natural instincts of being territorial, being the only man, right? In an evolved group where there was multiple men, sharing women, that's an instinct that he would have to overcome. I can even admit that I've not overcome, that on that level that needs. So it's definitely, a one man, multiple woman situation because again, I'm able to honor my nature as a man. It's not natural for men to share women like that. So, and again, I might be interjecting some shit that we haven't covered, but hey, I'm just trying to get to the pros and cons of why the multiple situation works, right, with the right man, okay? So let's get to sexual besties, okay? Because it's actually a major part. If we're talking intimacy with just the one man, and each woman having that, is, what's the advantage of having a sexual bestie? Like, that's clear, right? Like, itty wubbit, if they got over actually the fact of sharing a man, right, because they want to have these monogamy goals, don't they love besties? You know what I mean? Like, men don't even bestie. I mean, some dudes do, but like, ultimately dudes just is a little bit more detached. Women, like, this is okay, let's get to it. So this gets to break down monogamy, okay, and why monogamy, or one of the things why relationships don't work out, okay, because of where men and women are at in their evolution. So we're both on too strong of different frequencies, right? The male frequency, the male's on, and the woman frequency, the woman's on. We're not at a more unisex, where that ultimately is the man balancing his masculine and feminine at a level that would be almost unrecognizable to the balance of the masculine and the feminine and the female. So since we're each enough in 2023 on our own spectrums, we're like I said, sexual besties, woman, a woman. So when guys and girls are living together, and like I said, that's why I said this, like 5 to 10% of couples that may be lucky, this is one of the things that they have over most men and women, because most men and women are just on the male or female frequency. So like, I'm trying to give an example of, like what we like to do, just like when we're at the house or when we go out, like how we communicate. Like the woman, again, I'm trying to allude to, speaking the language of women, Venetian, women are from Mars, women are from Venus, type shit. Like you will see that, like I said, why do women like want to cuddle, in bed, and not even on no gay shit, but a dude couldn't do that shit. Like, what the fuck? I don't want to hug up no dude. Like, if you really, got that masculine energy like that. So my point here is, a woman is going to be much happier at her home in a relationship, long-term relationship, if she has another female around that's like her bestie, versus one man that's, her spouse, okay? Like, what advantages do you get from having one spouse, woman and man? you have this person that, since they're on the opposite, another frequency pretty deep, you don't really connect on that level. And that's why I said some people are lucky enough to connect on a deeper level, being men and women. It'll equate to more of like a, just a good, human treating another human the way you're supposed to, like friend type of interaction. But again, like men and women really struggle to be friends. We just, again, without, like I said, I'm not trying to go into super detail, but again, this is one of the things I'm trying to mention. Like, a guy can't really keep up. Like, put it like this, like a guy is gonna think that a woman's too needy and clingy with how much attention she needs, okay? Like, we are a little bit more independent creatures. So looking at that, you would say, okay, living in the same house, having another girl to, bounce that energy off of, that understand, like, cause that, like, even guys, when we'll bond with each other, okay, that's cool. But we still like our personal space. We like to go off in like our man cave in our mind and kind of just, detach from others. That time that we like to do that is the time women like to actually connect with each other and flow that energy, bounce it back off of each other. It's just, there is a different way that we communicate as men and women, and what you'll find is it's completely fine for, like, so again, for this 2 women and 1 man situation, it is completely fine for a man. He wants that alone time. Like, a man wants, doesn't want that detachment, but that kind of throws women off. Like, they feel rejected, like the modern woman that doesn't understand men. So for her to be more in her natural nature of communicating in her feminine, again, another feminine that communicates that way is ultimately going to be best for the household. They're going to thrive a lot better, okay, than when you have 1 man in his masculine and 1 female in her feminine. It's just, I'm sorry, try to have a monogamous thing, sell yourself short with a richer interaction than you could actually have, because one's not evolved to maximize 1 man, 1 woman in a monogamous situation. And this is just one example. If we can't understand each other's communication and really, the high level of compromise with the give and take to satisfy the needs in each other that we have, on top of not willing to, guys don't want to give up, pussy, and women don't want to give up guys wanting their pussy, right? Even in monogamous relationships. Just right there, these things show you why taking these steps to monogamy is not really beneficial versus this two women and 1 guys, type of 2 women, 1 guy type of situation. So let's add more, okay? So now she's got a bestie, cool, okay? Things are flowing, in the house. And again, I'm still gonna gloss over a lot, but again, I just wanna drive this point to, why we don't need to be thinking philosophy. We need to be thinking multiple women situation. And that's just, whatever, 2 billion women and me. I'll show you how that even works. Because again, if I'm like, I can only have 2 because I'm doing that for a woman, I still want to show, how I can be there for all women that need me, right? Even if this is the only way that I can be there for a woman. But actually, the 2 women that, I would want in this scenario, I'm going to add detail of the type of women I would like them to be, even furthermore, to accommodate more of us, to incorporate, of a 1 man multiple situation, but still get their level of intimacy that they're looking for. So, okay, what else do we have? This one should be apparent, right? And, and this is a need of the man, right? So, again, if a man would prefer to have multiple sexual partners versus 1, okay, and that's just by nature, right? Clearly 2 women is better than 1, right? So that already helps the psychology of the man Like when the man goes into these situations in a monogamous relationship, why do you think there's just that such connotation of like, oh, I'm hanging up the card, like what, I can't get no more pussy, like, oh, it's like such a big deal. It's like, it's not that big of a deal if a chick, like this guy I will be with for the rest of my life. Like, that's just a big deal for a guy, right? So my point is even furthermore, so if he could have an option for two, obviously that's gonna be more favorable and honors his natural nature. Because again, we're not just honoring the natural nature of the female to make this work, we're honoring the natural nature of the male also. Alexa, turn off the alarm. That's how long we've been going. It's, sun was down, sun's up, alarm's just going off. We're getting it in. I don't give a fuck. We're finishing this motherfucker, right? Like, you probably won't even see me drop a new video forever because, like, fuck that. Like, I went hard on this. So, also, let's throw some other, like, because again, it's just super beneficial. So there's psychology here, okay, that can't be overlooked that I have to touch on. So why do women be so unsatisfied in their monogamous relationships, right? Like this is some of the like most overlooked shit, and this helps this out major. Besides me being me, which, like I said, when we get to the points of those, I'll try to interject. But like I said, I just want to get the basic structure of why it works better. So a lot of women are just dissatisfied. The psychology here is a big one to take. Is for some reason, it's a challenge for a woman at the beginning to get a man in a monogamous relationship. Right? Like, you'll just find that there's this thing, a natural thing that like humans like a challenge, or they don't like things easy. You'll find once you become a complex person, you actually like things easy. You enjoy spontaneousness to mix shit up in your life, but you don't appreciate fucking hard work. You got too much shit to do to be working hard out here. What the fuck? Like I said, women are like, oh, he ain't putting enough effort in. Like I said, we got to evolve past that. It ain't about, like, again, when a woman senses that he's not putting that effort in, that's that time equals trust shit. That's all that is, right? But we have to grow past that. We have to come back to judgment, right? We have to learn how to treat another human being fairly. When we realize that, okay, yeah, I bullshitted this guy 3 times, and I did that because I really, really like him, and I wanted to make sure he sticks around. But how do you think the man at a non-animal, so it's not like he's like, oh, okay, well, I really want that pussy, so I'm going to keep showing up because I have nothing better to think about. No, he's in his head, he's at a higher level, and he's like, thinking, like, look at how this other person is treating me, male, female. He can't even understand the female instincts of why you're doing it, but it's just ultimately not, women, they'll really look at their behavior like, why am I, wasting this guy's time, or why did I, we don't even want to go through the list of what, females do to men that we just know is kind of dirtball. Like, and it's just all in the name of the game. It's kind of fucked up. We got to grow past that shit. So, but again, some of the psychology we can't really get rid of because it's just in our nature. So again, that's what we're trying to do, trying to satisfy some of this shit. So how do we satisfy some of the psychology of a woman? So again, we were talking about her challenge of getting a man in a relationship, and basically when she gets him in the, and then he hangs up his card, it's just like she gets bored and restless, and she stirs up shit, and becomes difficult. She might cheat or whatever. It's just like, I know a lot of women can testify to this point. It's just like, yeah, I wanted him until I got him. Like, now there's no more challenge. So with that being said, this is an instinctual thing, okay? Because to a certain degree, a woman needs to test that a nigga's not a full beta male, but to a degree, she needs to test that he's not a full alpha, right? So to not get too deep in the psychology of why women are with this behavior that they are, I just want to, again, throw in the 2 girls and 1 guy scenario. She never gets him. She never gets him, right? Like, it's good for the woman, okay? It really is. It's good for the woman's emotions, okay? Now, reason being is because you get so much of the bad behavior out of relationships because of this boredness that she comes to. And this, we're not even touching on the part of him actually being boring type of guy. We're talking about, like, she just doesn't have any challenge in that sexual pursuit anymore. Trust me, I've been there, and I'm not a boring guy. I've seen the change in a woman. It's just instinctual for a woman to where they're at in 2023. There's just too much psychology to go into, but ultimately, it's where we have to grow. Where women definitely have to grow to understand that if they're going to be satisfied in a monogamous relationship, they have to be satisfied with the man how he is when he's committed. Right? Now, there's certain qualities that he still has to exude, probably to still keep a woman or the feminine attracted to some level, but to some levels that women really require it to stay interested in, they have to evolve past that, which they're not right now. There was another one that jumped into my head. We'll just stick with, again, for right now, how, they get to acting funny because, they conquered their mission, they got the man, right? So there's no more challenge. And we're going to say, again, this is another reason why monogamy isn't a good fit, because humans aren't evolved to, be okay with that. That's what I was going to say. Is you even heard me mention that one of the things that is attractive to women in a man is when a man is wanted by other women. Okay? So, literally, it is bizarre. I've played with this concept. I've cut all the women off in my life. I've had women. I've seen how other women flock. I just, I don't even want to go into the level of analyzation of this concept but it's just clear, hands down, women attract more women, and it's so fucked up because a woman wants you all to herself, right? So that means you have no other women. So that means you're actually not attractive to her anymore because you're not desired by, and it's so funny because so many times at the beginning, a woman gets with a man because he's desired by other women. And then her challenge is, okay, well, yeah, he's got other bitches, but I'm gonna get him all to myself. And then when she does, then he's not attractive no more. On top of, there's not a challenge, right? So this is sucking the natural attraction energy that a woman would have. Now, again, this is from more of a barbaric nature, and it doesn't all go to, a monogamous relationship, right? Because obviously if these qualities came from a monogamous relationship, it would support the monogamous relationship. But you're seeing how I'm saying these qualities in the woman that aren't involved, that need her, desire. Like, again, we have to go back to our past evolution, like even with the apes, right? So when this, important, male pack leader, if you will, all the other women want, okay, well, this is, and this guy controls the resources. Well, there's some reason why women are attracted to men that want other, or wanted by other women. So you can clearly see this isn't a monogamous strategy, which we've just come off of. It's definitely, we didn't just make this shit up modern day. This shit comes back from older mating systems that were successful for several, for a long time in our lineage, if you will. And again, they just bleed through, right? Because they're not too far away, but it's still an important enough strategy that still speaks out to where, again, it causes a person to have issues in a monogamy relationship from some of their past behaviors. And some of their past behaviors has come through old evolution, right? Old, just the natural nature. And like, so that's how you can see we're actually at a lot of conflict with ourselves. The human, modern day human, in so many ways is at conflict with itself, which we won't, get into. But again, you can see how these natural natures benefit or prevent women from even getting what they want. When they get what they want, they don't want it, right? So again, 2 women, 1 man. What does that help alleviate? That help alleviate her unevolvedness in being able to tame this area, because she can never really get the man, right? And I've seen this shit play out, yo. It's beautiful. Again, from, to not even look at it from like an exploiting type of, point of view or anything like that, because by no means do I like to see, anybody in pain or anybody unhappy or anything like that. But let's point this out, because this is major. When I was talking about the guy can walk down the street and ask 30 women, do you want to have sex? All of them are going to say no. And every man is going to say yes, okay, to that one woman that's attractive, right? It's just how we're built. So we ultimately, again, we talk about that power that females have because of the pussy. We ultimately have to circle back around to this part, because there is a different nature in the man and the woman. So whereas, fuck this one man, there's 2 women. Those 2 women at any time can still walk out in whatever they're in and get any man to fuck them that they want. It's that easy, okay? So, but again, they know me. It's so funny. It's so funny because, again, we really do try to project ourselves on others on every level. And even, because this is one of the biggest things that I see is how women try to project themselves on men, like men have it like they have. Like women are so used to the way they have, and they know there's a difference in men, but they still think that men are capable of doing some things that they're not. And we're just not. We're just not. But I don't even want to get into that. But again, with walking out, getting those hits of sexual attention, being powerful, and knowing a man has to get, sex for it to actually be approved, from a woman. The point is, when there is 2 women competing for a man, okay, and it's not, in this sense, it's not even really competing, right? They're in a relationship. It's not like a man and like 2 women, right? Like, it's just really hard to, I guess, my brain, like I said, I've been going so hard, I probably could connect this really easy, but yeah, there it is. So again, a woman is just AKA a hoe, right? If she gives up the pussy, right? And a man is not, right? So actually, I don't think this is right, but so since she can get sex extremely easy, okay? All women, both women, okay? They carry a level of confidence that still is employed with that one man, that they have security in themselves. There's just not a level of that security in, like, if there was 2 males and 1 woman. And really, I want to just take all of that out, okay? Because again, there's just something from our older evolution mechanisms that where a woman desires a man that's desired by other women. A man doesn't desire a woman that is desired by other men. They don't give a fuck. It's a good pussy, let's go, right? So there's this mechanism, that's where I'm going, that is just natural in nature for women to be able to share a man, okay? whether they're on this conscious level, wanting this monogamous relationship and understanding the structure, and obviously there's not another woman involved, but we can even interject why, monogamous relationships, why is there so many open ones that women allow the man to cheat or allow him to do that? She doesn't do it, right? Because she doesn't want to, right? Like, there's so many levels we can look at in the man and the woman, modern day relationship and see, like, y'all are just trying to put, like, you have all of these barbaric evolutionary states as a human, and you're trying to force it in this sacred monogamous relationship that needs to be done right, and you're doing it all wrong, and you're really just tainting and destroying the meaning of a monogamous relationship. And now I'm going to say that from the bottom of my heart. There's women out here that want a monogamous relationship way more than me. And I'm going to say that the monogamous relationship is more important than pretty much any other relationship to be done right. I mean, they all need to be done right, but it's so sacred. And you hear all the reasons why here it's sacred. So why is, that's what you hear me pissed off, is everybody really just disrespecting it in the name of selfishness, the root of all evil, to get, again, their selfish desires, met the way they want them and not the way life and the principles of life, really, provide for that. But again, just really, like I said, we're trying to go raw. We've been going raw freestyle. Again, just trying to go through why it's, kind of, off the monogamy along the way of why it's, positive, and again, why it's got to kind of be with me, right? I haven't really too much scratched on that too much besides saying that, but besides, connection to God. So that's that. What other advantages or disadvantages do you have? To circle back around on the woman, it's just, like I said, I've been in this situation. Women just act better. Like, it's like, because they all want attention, right? And that's why the structure is just almost, it's not to play or prey on the woman. It's literally to just help for where she's evolved at with her natural instincts, to just put it in a structure that thrives, bottom line. The least amount of, unharmonious, right? So, I mean, you have the monogamy and then you get the guy and then it just becomes unharmonious. So why not put it in a situation where you never really get the guy like that? And it's not that you don't get the guy, because you got the guy, but for some reason you're unconsciously wanting to compete with this other girl for attention. And, it's like, oh yeah, did he look at me? Because again, women want approval, because again, from their sexual attention, their sexual opposite thing, just like, when we actually want pussy, they desire to, the man to want their pussy, right? So they're always doing these things on unconscious levels to try to get a man to want their pussy. So it's healthy to have women compete in that sense, because women know they can't lose at the end of the day. But when you have men, again, in this competing same scenario, right? And that's just the traditional thing of, the woman is the selector and all the guys cannot get in, right? It's depressing as a man, right? Because you are going to lose. You could lose. There are some men that don't get a woman their whole life. That shit's sad as fuck, right? Not gonna get into that. But my point is there's not a woman, like, I'm gonna go on the links to say, like, I don't even give a fuck. Like, dudes are so desperate, you can go to, like, highly undesirable women that will still get a guy. Okay? Highly undesirable man is never gonna get a woman. Okay? Desirable guy might still be tough for him to get women. Right? Like, there's a huge difference here, again, in just why the setup of the two females is healthy, even for their instincts, their natural instincts, to make them be the best them that they can. Make them be the best woman. You literally get a better woman when she's trying to compete for your attention with another woman. And this is all in subtle, unconscious Fun and games. Well, they're besties for God's sakes, right? They both are with the philosophy. They both want, they're with it. But at the same time, again, when you kind of help trick your own instincts as a woman to make sure that you are your best self and act the best, you don't let these time equals trust and all these dumb tests come up or get bored and, all these little things come up that would ultimately lead to disharmony, right? In the opposite sex sexual interaction. So that's that. And there's tons of little shit. There's tons of little shit like that this just helps, this structure helps out with. We haven't mentioned, like I said, I was saying the give and take of a household, okay? So obviously, say you got more incomes. I mean, yeah, it can be to where a dude can take care of, the two, women, but I always say an evolved woman is gonna have, she's probably gonna wanna give value, and giving value and receiving money in return. Like I said, it's just a normal thing. Like I said, we ain't gonna halfway get into these conversations about how the structure of that works or could potentially work, because everything in life is situational. But I do want to lead with, let's just go with, women working too, and so now you got at least three in this scenario. You got three incomes coming into a household versus two or one. What can you guys do with more money in life? Obviously you can do more. So, that's a benefit. And I'll be honest, I'll allude to, half of the, or I don't even want to put a percentage, but so many countless relationships are based on situational ships of financial situations. These monogamous relationships will be really situationships of financial situations, like convenience, financial convenience and shit. Because a person really may not be happy with that person, rather be single, but splitting, rent down the middle and this down the middle and bills down the middle and food, is just more conducive for their budget. So they stay in a monogamous relationship because of that situational shit. Like it's sad, that we have unhappiness just for kind of survival like that. But, it happens. So long story short, just with the concept of, power of what you can do by yourself versus power you can do with two versus with the power you can do with three. And again, when we start talking about bigger groups and less intimacy, right? Again, we're going to have to evolve, especially the woman. I don't think it's going to be too big for the man, but again, there's parts of the mating process that the man enjoys too when it comes to monogamy and being romantic. Like guys enjoy some parts of this too. So not having levels of intimacy, he's give and taking too if he decides to have a larger group. So, but again, I just want to, throw in there with the, 5 women and 1 guys. What can 6 people, bring into a household? What can you do? What kind of vacations? How many security nets do you have when one person falls and there's other there to pick them up until the other person gets their shit right or whatever. So these are logistics that we have to look in the framework of whatever structure we put together. And again, this is all the way to these future interactions that I talk about with humans in multiple groups. Like just again, imagine a group of 100 sexually men and women interacting, and what they're able to accomplish together in a intimate as possible unit for that large of size. So, and with that much masculine and energy combined, and creation energy, like that's a lot of creation energy. So, again, sacrificing intimacy, but we're not evolved beings like that. We don't know what it's like to make that intimacy sacrifice for another benefit of what you're trying to create. And again, when we may realize that we're infinite beings, and if we choose to stop off and smell the roses in this type of interaction, in several thousands or millions of years or hundreds of years or whatever the lifespan is, we can be having another experience, right? Who's to say that it doesn't work that way? So again, we're at where we're at in 2023, right? And we're just trying to find the most harmonious solution for all of the variables that are at play for opposite sex sexual interaction right now. And I'm telling, like I said, just trying to explain how this is, all right? If I'm to think, and again, I know I'm gonna be missing shit, I'll probably circle back around. But I'm pretty sure I'm pretty much starting to paint this picture. Like, I'm not here to change anybody's mind. I'm just here to give you the facts. If you can give me a logical argument besides it just feels right, that's why you want a monogamous relationship, or it's just some strong feelings. I've already addressed all this. Why you even have all of that? At this point, again, we're higher conscious humans. We can choose what structure we want to get the result that we're looking for based upon the variables that we're to play with, and again, men and women understanding each other better. So that's where I guess I gotta introduce my little difference, right, as a man. So what you're gonna find is most men haven't done a lot of work to understand women like I have, which gives me a different type of benefit for a woman. It's like a woman talking to another woman, but at the same time, I don't speak full. It's like foreign language, right? When you're talking to somebody that just speaks your language a little bit, enough to get through or whatever, but you can just see they're not fluent in it, right? That's the way I am. And it's hard to find another man like that with women. Now me, finding women, again, that's another reason why I'm trying to do, if you think about it, this philosophy helps bridge the gap for women to understand men. Because if you see the level of work that I've done to even, because again, this is only for women. This is not for men at all. This is only for women. And how can I talk to women about them on this level if we're just not realizing at some level, like, man, this guy really has the insight in on what I'm experiencing, and he's a whole nother fucking opposite sex. It's a lot of work. I couldn't tell you how many years, how much I've learned from women, what women have taught me indirectly, never anything directly. That's one of the things, like I said, we can talk about. Women want you to be psychic, just want you to know. These are, some unrealistic expectations. I don't want to talk about where this comes from. But ultimately, that's another reason why it's good to have another bestie in the house, because the women they are a little bit more psychic with each other. Sometimes a guy can just be off, detached. But, I'm gonna, kind of get to the one thing that, women was probably just like, yo, are you ever gonna mention this part? Because how does this part fit in this? I love how it just comes out at the end. Really make you watch all this to really get to this part, because again, men don't have kids, okay? Females have kids, men contribute to females having kids. Like, really, that's what's happening, like, in reality. We don't like to look at it like, whoa, we're in a relationship, we had kids together. Did he pop something out of him? No. Like, again, this is responsibility. We don't like responsibility. Humans don't. You'll even see, like, women, really dodge the full responsibility that they have as mothers, which we're not going to, dodge that. And again, we're just gonna, straight up attack it. I was just, wanting to see if there was, because again, there's I'm just trying to see the most important things about, the philosophy of, the differences of why the two women, one man is a good scenario to go with the right person. And again, I was just alluding to, before I'm kind of alluding to kids, is, you know, kind of me and why it is a little special with me, because not only do you have to have a philosophy, you have to, you know, have a certain connection. Like, you know, like women, they'll say, I'll get compliments like, nobody, I can't talk to anybody that understands me. You know, not even like other women type shit. You know, they don't, I can be a little different. And, you know, there's a vast amount of reasons that I really just trying to really think if there's just like I said, some ones that really, really make the difference. The boring and predictable thing is kind of major. As for predictable as I try to make a structure and things like that, I promise you, like when you're like, it's just, you know, it still fucks with the woman emotion to keep things exciting enough, because I'm just not predictable, and I'm not boring, right? You got to have a sense of humor. You got to, be normal person and shit, right? So, there's just you got to be, women are real social creatures. Sure, there's some socially awkward women, and some even socially awkward women still kind of get the whole social thing. They just don't participate in it. But there's guys that are oblivious to, fucking what's going on socially savvy. But being, you'll find, again, especially for, desirable women, they're typically social. So, being a social person, bringing a lot of those skills to the table. Again, we've already mentioned the connection to God that really kind of just, strikes a lot of. But, the level of evolution too. Like, so when we kind of talk about, overcoming jealousy or overcoming shame or blame or taking responsibility, all these weaknesses in us that you see me kind of pointing out just like on the fly, there is some level of like, if a man's not on that, that's not who this is for. Like, it can't be two girls in one. It's just not going to work, because it's just, again, I even think for this scenario, okay, I think that it has its max potential over other scenarios for even the most evolved human that we are today. I think if you throw a couple of, 3 not that evolved humans in that scenario, if they have a little bit of understanding of the stuff that I talked about, especially the women, to be able to try to really put things a little bit better perspective to accept that type of interaction, I guess it wouldn't be too bad, But again, I couldn't see the guy just doing everything in a good name, in the name of something good, of seeing how it's an equal and balanced and fair situation. Like how I'm, seeing like that shit's like, I'm not winning in any advantages that she's not winning and having in the same advantage, right? Like we could try to put the double standard, well, you got 2 girls and I don't have 2 guys, but we can clearly see with all the elements I've put, that's not even of a relevance to where a person's like really feeling like they're winning like that, Like, this is good for everybody. It's beneficial for everybody. It makes things run harmonious, better for everybody at the level where humans is at. So, yeah, I mean, I think there's just, you have to read between the lines of the other shit of why it works. But again, when we talk about, changing the world through the philosophy, this is where, women, like I said, would have to kind of start to see what type of a male, like I said, I might just present, over the course of time a little bit more about what type of males they're really looking for. And it's not just me, that's the whole thing. It's not about me. It's about the qualities that I possess as a man that is favorable for a woman, for ultimately us to understand each other. That's like what I was just kind of alluding to earlier. It's just the level of understanding that I have with women. Men just don't have that shit. So how, like I did my compromise so I can, to do things the way women want. Now, again, that's one thing that I lack and I don't get to experience is women understanding me, right? So obviously if, women starts to get the philosophy a little bit more, grow a little bit more, understand and let me know, then, maybe I'll have that sometime. But for now, I don't, like I said, I don't really want to talk anymore about the difference. I think that's cool. Long story short with the kids, this is maybe one last thing I'll finish it off with. Because like I said, I know it's the elephant in the room. It really is. So I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news on this one. And again, I kind of was just alluding to it just a minute ago when I'm saying, men don't have kids. Okay, this is very, very important to know. Even though we have laws that can put somebody on child support, make them be responsible, all this shit, we always have to go back to nature and the jungle of what it would be like, right? And again, male parental investment, what is it always been for mammals? It's been a extra, right? It's been male parental investment has just been like, oh, okay, if he ends up contributing to my pregnancy and rearing offspring, then we have a better chance. It's a choice. You can't really choose a man, force a man to do that. You just find some guys step up to the plate, some guys don't, whatever. Some guys look at it different ways, some whatever. So, like I said, if we kind of, circle in a little bit to this one, again, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but we have to look at things a little bit more practical. And again, this is for where we're at in 2023. Let's be realistic, especially with all these divorces and the households that we got and all this shit. Baby mamas, right? Like, everybody's a baby mama, baby daddy, right? Like, seriously. Like, it's way more baby mamas and daddies than couples with kids. Now, why I'm stating this is because we have to go back to nature. It's just the way it was done. Even with the alpha male, right? When she wanted the genes of an alpha male because she knew her offspring had a better chance of survival. She knew he wasn't stick around, but she wanted those genes that she knew was strong, right? This thing could be on its own and figure things out, right? Versus a beta, no strength, right? So the point here is, I'm gonna try not to be insensitive about this topic. Again, I'm just showing like I said, I hate, again, I know the way society tries to say we have kids together and all. I just really want show me when I have kids, yo. I can contribute to a woman having a kid. I can even try to say I had a kid once that happens. But did that in reality, did I push something out? It even show you more, even with courts, who has the rights more? Once the child's, sure, I know there's other variables that would account for, but ultimately there's something about the mother's rights that are more important than the father's. That's just natural, right? She gave birth. So if we're looking at that and then we start to say, what's the level of baby mamas? And then let's just say, where did majority of these kids, and again, this is where we really see how humans have all these varyings of their strategy that they actually employ. When you actually see where kids come from and what interaction or what didn't interact, you'll just see that, yeah, this is just not this monogamy strategy at play, right? Humans are employing a lot more for whatever reasons we're not going to get into. But again, we know it all, our desires from our lineage and things just coming out for various reasons and the structure that we're in this modern 2023. But again, I want to just talk about baby mamas, okay? And at the end of the day, where they typically come from, all right? What they came from was a failed monogamous relationship. True or false? Am I making this shit up? So if babies come from a failed monogamous relationship. Most of the time. I mean, they come, chick just gets knocked up or whatever. But, I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to get too deep into this one. I'm just going to state how monogamy, again, that's where, I think most women, when they do, and I would say damn near even when they get pregnant. I mean, it is different, but the majority of pregnancies, I'm going to even say the chick really liked the guy like that, for whatever reason. And anyhow, the thing that most people are butthurt about, okay, is the failed monogamous relationship, okay? The woman wanted a relationship and, could see herself having a family and, maybe submitted a whole bunch for a guy who wasn't really shit, but finally got the family, the monogamous relationship. The point here is, I come from this, right? How many of you are listening, had both parents at some point of your birth? They were together and they're not together today, right? I, pray for, you that actually still do have them together. That's cool, but just the vast majority of us don't, okay? And what that means is somebody had the intentions of having this traditional monogamous relationship and they weren't happy, they left, and they're, basically, let's equate this to two things. Is one, there's typically hella scarring and hella heartbreak, okay, from the man on the man's side and the woman's side. The man be butthurt, his marriage, and he settled for a woman, and he's been out of the game for this long, and same thing with the woman. I sacrificed this family, and it didn't work out, and blah 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 blah. Motherfuckers be butthurt. Okay, and motherfuckers be scarred for the rest of their life. Like, they never even rebound. Like, they be in these relationships 10, 20 years and then finally, get out or whatever. Be fucked up for life. Like, don't heal from this shit. But my point here is what I'm really, trying to get to here with the kids thing is what would happen if, in that scenario, that a person, before they got into a monogamous relationship or tried to get into a relationship with somebody and have a kid and then it didn't work out and then, they're back to being a baby mama, right? Baby daddy. What would happen if at the very beginning those two people were to have kids, okay, and not get into a relationship, okay? And then fast forward the amount of time that if they were to get in a relationship to where they would break up, what would be the difference from them breaking up and what, the guy, and the woman and the kids or kid, what would there be any difference of a look from there? And if they were to just have kids from the jump and just not even get in a relationship? Answer is fuck no. I know that might have been a little confusing how I worded that, but my point is you could have saved the whole fucking relationship and just had fucking kids from the beginning and had a healthy baby mama and baby daddy relationship. Maybe you would have had less scarring. Maybe you would have had less trauma. The kids may have less. I won't even talk about all the shit that comes out of, a lot of times a chick will be bitter from, she doesn't, have the relationship that, because the guy was cheating and she thought it was going to be, and doesn't understand men, so fuck it. And, doesn't even let little shorty see the pops because she's so bitter about pops. So the relationship with the mother or the father and the child could be stronger, but you have interpersonal relationships from bitterness that get in the way. So, this is not healthy, right? How we're even starting off with, having kids. And again, even when we say about men, they try to, men that bitch, she would never act right, you know what I mean? I gave her kids, you know what I mean? Well, fuck her, she can just have the kids, and be a shit father, right? Whatever. We could put a million scenarios on the toxicity of, again, we already know it's an over 60% divorce rate, or give or take, whatever. and even more kids born out of marriage and just still relationships that didn't work. But my whole point is this, I'm really beating around the bush because I have to deliver this as soft as possible. And that is, you are a baby mama, period. If you have a kid, if you're a woman and you have a kid, it's just like, I apologize, maybe I don't deliver it that way. But what I'm trying to say is, if you can prepare in your head that you're just a baby mama from the jump, okay? And again, maybe that's probably a little bit too, I know baby mama can have negative connotations, so let me put accurate verbiage on here, okay? A woman accepting that she is going to be a mother if she has a child, and that's her responsibility, and that's that. If a guy ends up contributing more, then that's a bonus, right? Just by nature, male parental investment. If it comes, it's a bonus. Other than that, I'm a mother. I rear the children of this world for humanity, and that's the responsibility of women. Again, this whole time we've been talking about valid differences between men and women. I think we started at the beginning and said, men and women are more the same than different because we're human, but there's valid differences that we've been talking about, the differences that really make the difference in the species. And again, who has kids? That's just one of the big things. Who's responsible for that? Just one of the big things. And again, we can't get caught up in our modern construct of this, concrete jungle and laws and things, and confusing the way it would just be if not, if we were just in nature. We gotta, kind of be, look back at that, to put things in its proper perspective. So again, let's fast forward and just show it. How do kids work into your philosophy, Jay? Because you're talking about this philosophy, didn't really see a place for a family. So tell me what's up with that, okay? Because of course, obviously, that's one of the things we're alluding to, why she even wants a monogamous relationship, is because ultimately she, desires a family. And because she's, needs to bust out kids, and, families is what you do for that. So, where I'm going with this, like I said, we're pretty much done. Like I said, pretty much gonna sum this up, with this kids thing. How this works is, again, a woman basically just preparing herself from jump to be a single mother, okay? Because that's what mammals do, okay? And in general, for the most, right? Now, again, this is where judgment comes in play. Like, you don't want to get a dude who's just going to be a deadbeat dad or not contribute or not be a good father. But here's the point where, again, you don't have these expectations to when it doesn't work in the monogamous, where everybody's butt hurt and the kids actually gets, negatively affected because of all this and all of that. But, it's not just that. It's like a woman knows at the jump, okay? Even if she gets into a relationship, like say me and two chicks get in a relationship, and then we end up having kids, and there's a family thing going on. Okay, I'm cool with that. But here's my point is, if for some reason this whole little thing doesn't work out, okay? Like, I'm not going on no child support or, a chick holding leverage over my head, with the kid and shit like that. Like, I think it's really healthy, to not have any leverage over another person in that situation. It's like when a person can take full responsibility, like, okay, I'm in this relationship, I'm taking, the chance, hey, if it works out and everybody's in the same household, we know how a father and a mother in the same household, how rich that could be. But, hey, if it doesn't work out, I take shorty, hopefully, again, male parental investment, hope that there's male parental investment. Which obviously, if a woman has good judgment, that it's going to be good judgment, and it'll be a co-parent from a distance, right? So at that point, again, with the man just kind of having choice to co-parent or not, it's just more of a natural way of nature, and it just takes a lot of expectations. It takes a lot of animosity, and a lot of shit out of play. Now, do I know sometimes child support helps kids and shit that where there is deadbeat dads and shit like that? Sure. But again, we're trying to take a step here and just give a guy the benefit of the doubt, because we're on some evolved shit that they're gonna handle their priorities the way they need to handle their priorities, but they're not gonna have a law, a thumb over them, right? Even kind of with relationships and marriage, I don't know about the whole, there's maybe financial reasons to do it, but as far as being recognized by the law, and then some of the law that's recognized because you got married, I'm not with none of that shit. Nigga, if you go in nature, okay, and some shit goes down, what's going down, right? I always, yes, our modern society has a lot of benefit in, civilization and being able to maneuver in civilized fashion, but some shit's overdone. Okay, and again, I'm just pointing some shit out that's overdone. And again, I'm not gonna get into where that shit comes from, because these comes from way before we were ever born and shit. These constructs of marriage and constructs of laws and legal systems and things like that, and tell you what you can and can't do, or how things are. And in God's eyes, that doesn't mean it's right just because it's in law. There's a few things here and there. I mean, I'm not going to say law overall seem pretty accurate, but, there's a lot of little places that, it definitely gets you lost, and it'll create a loophole, and you can do all kind of wreak all kind of havoc because of this little loophole. So anyhow, the reason why I'm speaking about that is just, it's one of those things to where we're trying to avoid any of the negative shit at all costs when it comes to the kids. And we're trying to put it in this proper perspective. And again, I really do think that if a woman commits to understanding before she has a kid, this is ultimately my responsibility. And because it is, it really is. And if she gets male parental investment, it's a bonus, right? So pick good, step your judgment up, but again, not to have forceful situations, because, people are bitter, or, and again, I mean, if she, so it's almost on a level of like, okay, well, if you can't support a kid on your own, okay, and these people break up, say, him, her and him don't work out, and she had a kid with but she don't know how to support herself, to depend on a whole nother person just because you were in a relationship with them and had a kid with them, to hold them liable for you financially because you can't take care of the priority. Like I said, life is tough, and like I said, I definitely, say that as soft as possible, because sometimes we do need help, and life can be a struggle, and sometimes there could be a situation where somebody should step up to the plate, but they don't step up to the plate. And having a measure in place to make sure that person steps up to the plate, sometimes that's a positive. But again, that's what I'm trying to say. This is speaking with barbaric humans. This doesn't work with barbaric humans. This only works with, next level thinking, new age, fucking, next level evolutionary shit of what I'm talking about, okay? So there's a level of trust that you have to have in people. You have to have it in them, and they have to have it in you. And we got to get away from a lot of that bullshit. So anyway, if you kind of see, I'm pretty sure I pretty much summed up everything. I really, drove home pretty much every point, probably beat it to where it's like, okay, now hopefully the brain just kind of puts all that shit together and kind of sees, oh, okay. So basically what you're saying is, yeah, this modern day traditional relationship shit, really, we've been all bumping our heads, fucking up, all day long trying to figure this out, which it wasn't really gonna work because we're not evolved as a species to have that in that structure. And, matter of fact, okay, this other structure that, I'm dropping on you with the sexual, it actually goes a lot better where we're evolved at in humanity right now. And even to the point of, like I said, with kids, it's all something that can still happen and everything. But again, when you put that expectation of how it's supposed to look in a traditional relationship, monogamous relationship in a family that lives happily ever after, and that just not happening so often, it's just way more realistic to set it up for, okay, if that doesn't happen, how do we still be harmonious about this whole situation? So we have to come to an understanding from the jump. So again, I mean, these are just solutions. So yes, I've been talking about problems. I've been saying how something doesn't work, but it's not like I have not given you the solutions and not told you exactly why the solutions work. In a very general sense, like I said, we could add way more detail. But yeah, I'm kind of stuck right now because I've been going so long and I just know there's probably something I forgot to mention. Yeah, but the only other thing I would mention about like the 2-girl, 1-guy level, it's still a high level of intimacy. You take for granted how when there's only 3 people and, you interact on a daily, to just talk to, 2 people, you can get, 1 man, 2 women, you can get extremely deeply connected with both of them. There's some people you could probably get, there's some 2 women and 1 man situations to where you could get more intimate, deeply connected with the 2 women, if people were evolved high enough, right? At least for where we're at today. Than some people in a monogamous relationship that have no communication, that don't really understand each other, don't, all this other stuff. Again, but my point is I always just like to, throw in the 3-girl threesome situation. What's gonna happen more than likely if, the other 2, you're gonna have 2 groups. So I'm trying to avoid that because there is a higher level of intimacy, even with the females, right? They're able to become besties, like one-on-one is still always going to be deeper connection than, one on 2. So like if she had 2 girls to be best friends with, like one's gonna be like, and it saves favoritism in that scenario. It's just, the 2 girls are besties and then there's a guy and, it's just, like I said, the needs, I think I alluded to the first video, like the needs that a woman has versus the needs that, a man has. What a woman gets in a bisexual situation, basically. I know we probably need to go into the whole sexual besties and pop, but we're not, gonna go too deep. But again, the women get what they need out of the man, and then they're able to get what they need out of each other. It's just a very, very rich interaction, okay? And again, that's what I'm looking for. And again, we've already seen how there's multiple structures that one can shoot for, but I do think that most practical thing that humans can do in 2023 is man can develop itself, woman can develop itself, and have a 2-on-1. And again, we can get as much needs met as possible. Yeah, again, just a warning, I wouldn't try this with anybody else just because just the level of understanding that the man's gonna have, he's just not gonna have enough to operate in a healthy manner with all of this. If you looked at all the information, he's not gonna be able to put these kids in a healthy way that really makes this whole thing, jive and work together. And I mean, not to even mention, we throw the kids, I mean, you got 2, 3 people helping out with kids versus, you know, just two. It's like if one's busy, it's like I said, we could go into multiple benefits of how the multiple household situation works out and why the monogamous thing is just dead. And it's not that it's dead, it still lives very much actively through us. But we have to make a choice to make a different strategy because of where we're at if we want to live harmonious. So that's the philosophy. That's all I got for you. Like I said, I'm not here to convince anybody. If you see the truth in it, cool. If not, you know, keep it pushing. Ain't nobody tripping. You know, so stay tuned for the future videos. I know it's been a long one. If you stick with me, I appreciate it. Hope you found value if you did stick with it. Much appreciation, but I can tell you this would have never gotten done if I just didn't go one long ass segment to at least get the point across of everything. And one last thing I'm gonna mention about the, you know, sexual bestie, you know, two women and one woman. It's getting late, you know, obviously I've been going forever, so I'm, you know, like I said, I'm about to shut it down. But is the thing, you know, with the two women, like I said, two women and one guy, and this isn't to be greedy, okay? Like, I'm not trying to come off greedy when, you know, when I make this statement here, but this is just to ultimately make a more favorable scenario. And again, I hope a woman sees with this philosophy, it's not just about even a trio. Like, this philosophy is so big, this is for the world, right? So we're building community, and we need to share and interact in community in some type of way, right? We don't need to be a closed, selfish unit, right? This one of the things that you'll see how we evolve is in humanity. Either evolve into something greater or re-evolve into something great that we already were and we've forgotten, which we won't get into. So, long story short, it would be favorable if, yes, obviously both women would be bisexual on that level, right? If you're doing sexual besties with a guy, right? Now I want to interject this, and like I said, this isn't to be greedy. Now, and again, it's favorable this is something that's favorable for the man, you know, but could possibly, you know, for the right women be favorable for them also. And that's why I'm throwing this out there, because ultimately I want the most favorable interaction. We talk about guy being programmed to want new pussy, to literally, you know, enjoy having sex, just built by nature to seek sex with, you know, as many attractive women as possible. So there's always going to be that nature in me, even if I were to, you know, commit to two women, right? So again, we talk about a man not really having that area evolved of his life. So I would like this also, okay? I'm just going to throw this in. This would be more beneficial also with the trio, is if the women that were bisexual were actually open to other women also, okay? And kind of how that works, I've thought about this. It's not like, oh, okay, you know, I got two women and I'm committed to them and I just go out and have sex all behind their back, which I want to, you know, actually interject. What is the sacrifice that I'm making here if I'm built like a natural man and I'm giving a woman intimacy, two women intimacy? Because again, I could have five, but we kind of prefer to a certain extent. But if I'm yielding to a woman and trying to help satisfy her natural desires of intimacy, because that's what comes from a monogamous thing that she's built to desire, slimming it down as many as two to still have enough of the interaction that, you know, has positivity with a multitude of women, you know, scenario, got to at least have two. So I'm already, you know, making that sacrifice to only two women to give intimacy at the highest levels in an interaction that's still going to be successful in the opposite sex sexual interaction. So again, I guess what I said, I'm not being like greedy, because again, I'm really submitting. Like, again, if I could have 7 new chicks, you know, every day or every week for the rest of my life, I mean, that'd be a hard turn down, that, you know, versus, okay, you can have these 2 for the rest of your life. You know, it's a hard, you know, turn down. So for me to turn that down, how can we try to incorporate this a little bit better? And again, sexual energy is sacred to a certain degree. So I don't want to just, say, you just fuck any and everybody. You really don't. Okay, we haven't even touched on that. But if there was two bisexual women, and let's just add me, and there's just, for a hypothetical example, there's another woman who's on the philosophy, who wants to be a part of what we've got going on, but obviously there's no room on the starting 1 and 2, right? And she would like to be a bench player, or I don't even want to say a bench player, I almost just want to say a visitor, and maybe the girls have friends and they keep it a little bit more looser, and it's just sex. They don't they keep their sexual bestie and me in priority. But this is where I'm trying to just allude to, is that everything is open, everything's on the table. It's almost like if I were to have sex besides the two women, okay, and I would have had, we're bringing a new woman, well, I'm having sex with a new woman with the other two women, right? Again, everything is situational, but I would prefer not to have a woman like, oh, okay, yeah, just keep it exclusive, intimate with us or whatever, and then you can just do your thing on the side. I would prefer it not be like that, to be 100% honest. Like, oh, you can still have that part of your desire of seeking new sex as a man, but I just don't want no parts. I think it really kind of ruins the philosophy. I think it would be a lot more richer if the bisexual women that I was with already was open to experiencing new women also, just like me, and in a transactional sense, like they know they hold the number 1 and 2 spot. They get the intimacy. He's not out here, like doing things behind my back. Like, it was just sex and we all enjoyed it. You know what I mean? Women enjoy other women. If you're a bisexual woman and already enjoying women, like, why wouldn't you enjoy another woman? Type deal. If you're looking at sex in a very more loose way of, it's just a pleasurable activity. Yes, there's things that by nature, the woman holds sex, but when she puts that in a perspective, why she's trying to hold sex in that way over a man in a monogamous relationship and things like that, and she starts to put it in a healthy perspective of, like I said, a lot of the things that I've been talking about, she could easily be okay with having sex with, say, bringing in third or whatever. So I just wanted to throw that out there. That would be favorable. That's not to be greedy or anything like that. That's, again, to just make a harmonious situation, not be selfish, keep growing, build community, pass the philosophy along, pass love around, meet new people, interaction, have touch, with our, you never know what kind of soul family we have or contracts that we have with people, or why we need to interact, or why they cross our paths, or why they need to be in our lives. So anyway, I don't think small, we think big. Go big or go home. And again, that's what I got for you.